Hi everyone, welcome to today's meditation. A very warm welcome from Peace Village Learning and Retreat Center of the Brahma Kumaris, based in New York, in America. So, today we are going to be speaking about this topic of meet your mind. The mind is a very important faculty. We all are aware that what's going on in the mind is what affects everything that we feel, our emotions, our attitudes, and our behaviors. So, it is important for us to check what is going on in our minds. And if we were to think of the mind as like how in a play there is a stage, and on the stage, um, there are many, many actors on the stage, right? So, similarly, the actors on our mind's stage are thoughts. And when these thoughts are very many in nature, then we find that we are actually um, having these feelings of stress and anxiety, right? If just imagine that in a play, if you go to watch a play and you see that on the stage every actor, whether it is his role at or part to play in that moment or not, some actors just come and they all want to be on the stage, then there is definitely going to be chaos, right? On the stage, something similar happens in our minds as well, that there are currently so many thoughts on our minds that we feel, because they are pushing to be on the front stage and get the attention uh, in the on the stage of the mind, then there is a lot going on behind each of those thoughts, right, to get that attention. And hence we all experience anxiety, and we experience stress, we experience a lot of cyclical thoughts, negative thoughts, and we see that there is a sort of stickiness with the negative thoughts, as if we want to think about it compulsively or obsessively, or we helplessly even, we end up thinking about those negative thoughts over and over again, and they become cyclical in nature, and we do not know how to really um, get out of that cycle of negative thoughts. So, what do we do about this? Whenever we meet someone, right? When we meet like a stranger, or when we go to meet anyone, we get to know that person, right? Only when we get to know that person, we actually start to interact with them uh, in a right manner, or in a way that is pleasant, right? But knowing of the person is very important for us to really generate familiarity with them, and also to interact with them, to have a good relationship with them, right? So similarly, our mind currently, it's there very much, right? It's a very important faculty, like we said, but uh, this meeting with the mind is very important. And in most cases, as if we are just going on along our lives without meeting our mind. And so in this meeting, what we do is we try to see what is, you know to get to know our mind. And to get to know our mind, we need to know what kind of thoughts are going on in the mind. And I will share a personal example here, that in the beginning, when I came into Raj Yoga meditation, when this thought of the mind having thoughts was introduced, my teacher gave me a very nice practice. She told me that when you're at work or when you're at home, whenever you get even 1 or 2 minutes, when you go to drink water or you take a break, you're shifting tasks, something like this, Just observe the thoughts in your mind. And I thought that, what difference will it make if I just observe the thoughts in my mind? But when I actually did this practice, it opened a whole new world, as if I didn't know my mind at all. When I actually started to observe what's going on in our mind. And what I observed was, one was, like I mentioned before, that there was a huge portion which was, we can say, unpleasant thoughts, negative thoughts, not thoughts that I didn't want to have actually, but I was ending up having those thoughts still. And the other, I thought, when I went deeper into the checking, so that was like a revelation first, that there is so much of my time that the mind is spending on these thoughts which I actually don't want. And the other revelation was that these thoughts had a pattern. The negative thoughts, they had a pattern. They were mostly around one or two or maximum three things, and that is what was happening in the mind. So now, that I knew that thoughts are negative, I didn't want to have those thoughts. So that is one. Other, I knew that there is a certain pattern that this is following. And then once I recognize those two, three areas, for example, it may be around work or, any relationships or any kind of a passion or hobby that you have, right? So those kind of thoughts, the patterns, if you recognize, then you start to look at the triggers for each of those patterns. Um, and that's about it. Then we just recognition is important for us. And then to change those thoughts, there is one very quick method which is very, very effective. So we don't have to go to, how do we stop those triggers when we go in that sequential manner of recognizing the cause for our negative thoughts. But the solution to, you know to actually change those negative thoughts is replacement. And that replacement is based on our awareness. So when we really understand spiritual wisdom, we are saying that all those negative thoughts and the causes, the triggers, are all based on false awareness, or what we call false identity. So something like, if I I, I feel that I am someone who who's a very good worker, right? Very dedicated, for example. So a hardworking person. So thoughts based on, if there is something happening at work and people are not perceiving me as hardworking, then there are many negative thoughts based on that. That, oh, why is he feeling like this? Why, what will happen if they don't perceive me like a hardworking person, and this and that, right? So that is a thought based on something that I feel I am, right? Hardworking person. And so there are many, many false identities like this. It can be based on the house we live in, it can be based on the country we live in, it can be based on our physical appearance, it can be based on our ideas and our thoughts, and our plans, our innovative, creative ideas also. So there are many, many, many false identities like this, and all these false identities end up giving us stress and anxiety because they end up in this negative and cyclical thoughts. And now, with spiritual wisdom, when we are learning what is the true identity state, the true awareness that one can be in, that is, this point of light. Now, if we were to completely replace this false identity state with the true identity state, then we see that our mind becomes full of happy thoughts and joyful thoughts, loveful thoughts, peaceful thoughts. And these thoughts, the thoughts based on our reality, which are called elevated thoughts, right? Those thoughts are very stable in nature, calm in nature. They are also, they last longer. So there is no feeling of stress and anxiety. And so how do we do this? You cannot do this overnight, that all your negative thoughts go and then the positive thoughts, or the elevated thoughts that we want to nurture and develop in our mind, doesn't happen overnight. But what we can do is we can start with a minute, 2 minute. So the moment we observe, or whenever we have time, we just stop and check the thoughts, and we bring in the true identity thoughts based on this point of light. So let us now do a short meditation to experiment with this. So, like always, we sit in an upright position, keeping the back straight and relaxing the facial muscles, relaxing the neck and the shoulders, relaxing the arms and the back, the legs, and feel the feet touching the ground. And we turn inwards to observe the thoughts on the stage of our mind. We see that there may be thoughts of around people who live with us or who we interact with, what they did, why they did. There may be thoughts around what is to be done next. All the things that are to be done on the weekend, through the week. All those tasks may be on the mind. There may be thoughts around what happened in the past. We just observe these thoughts, and we tell our mind that these thoughts are not important. What is not important and necessary is like waste. And just like when we find waste in our homes, we put it in the garbage bin. Similarly, all these thoughts which we know cause anxiety and stress, not pleasant thoughts, we sense that they are unimportant and put it outside the mind, far away in a bin. Empty the mind, make the mind clean and clear. And now clean and clear of all those thoughts which are not important, we connect with our true identity, the point of light. And we see the true home of this point of light. We see like light being dispersed in this home of light, the spiritual home of the spiritual being. And we just connect with this spiritual being, who is aware of his own immortality. He knows that the spirit, this point of light, does not die. There is no beginning and end of the spiritual being. It is the living, conscient being. Looks like a point of light. This being is so secure in his own immortality that he feels full always. He's not lacking anything, not needing anything. He knows that he is subtle and invisible, belonging to the non-physical dimension. And in the mind, this being of light can see the contrast between the non-physical and the physical. The non-physical is the reality. The physical is temporary and unpredictable in nature. And all the thoughts based on the physical, for example, Kanupriya is a physical being. And all the things around Kanupriya are based on physical. Thoughts around them are unpredictable, temporary, always changing. That is the nature of anything that is based on physical. So we just see the contrast between the physical and the non-physical. This being of light is eternal. This whole dimension, the non-physical dimension, the home of light, that is changeless, timeless. Beyond sound, full of light. We just fill our mind with the thoughts of the real being. Meeting your mind is meeting the being, the living being, getting to know more about the living being. So for the rest of the day, we keep a check on our thoughts. We see what is going on in our mind. And once we see that the mind is tending towards thoughts that we really don't want to have, we come back into this true awareness, a point of light belonging to this spiritual home of light. Being of peace, in the land of peace, happiness, where one can experience true love. Just staying connected with the truth and not getting confused and drawn into the physical. With an aim to hold this awareness, we now come back So maybe we will share a few tips on how we can come into the awareness and what is the right way to do it. And if there are any questions, please do feel free to put it in the chat box. So the one tip, and that's a very important tip to take note of while practicing, while coming into this true awareness state, is that the concentration level has to be 100% and see what works for you. So there are various things that may work, and for example, choosing what you want to think about or what awareness you want to practice beforehand. And the other aspect is, many times we feel that the longer we meditate, the more benefit we will get, which is true. Nothing wrong with that too, if you're able to meditate with good concentration. But the key here is that we develop and build on concentration first. The quality of our thoughts should be very accurate, and we should be able to, the mind should be able to really experience those few thoughts that we may have set out for ourselves to experience. So initially, even if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, even lesser, right? The aim should be to fully concentrate on the quality of our thoughts. And then what we notice is that the more we get experiences in these short meditations or short practices of coming into the true awareness, the time, or the quantity of time automatically increases, because you will start to see that how you're able to be more happy, more peaceful, more joyful, more loving when we are in these true awareness thoughts. So there is as if a pull to be in this experience more and more naturally. So we don't really have to work on the length of time that we are sitting down for meditation, but really to focus on concentration and not let the mind wander. It is, of course, right now, mind will be wandering, but to check and to come back. Um, make it shorter. That may help. So that is something that I wanted to share. And thank you very much for joining. We will meet again very soon. Om Shanti.